Dear Journal. Dear Journal, photography, in my way of thinking, is the art of sharing the art that is all around us all the time. We open and close this month's volume with photography. We will end with a bit of my own poetography, the fusion of poetry and photography. But we begin with a very special photographer and his very special favorite subject. Near a pond at the center of the garden, the sound of trumpeting flamingos fills the air. Then a voice disrupts the flock's symphony. The voice belongs to Alan Rodriguez. He's beckoning one special flamingo named Adrian, who eagerly responds.
We have 32 free-roaming flamingos, and each of the birds has their own birdnality. One of them is Adrian. He is actually our newest. He's only about 2 years old, and he really rules the roost around here.
Alan is a professional photographer, and Adrian, well, he's Alan's favorite subject.
With Adrian, yes. That's my boy. When he's amongst the flock, he's the first one to spread his wings and honk at me. As if to say, here I am.
Photography has helped Alan spread his wings, using images to communicate beyond spoken words. Adrian doesn't care that Alan isn't like him. Alan speaks flamingo fluently, and he responds lovingly, without a single bribe of food.
I guess it's my voice, I don't know.
Are you thinking too bad humans aren't always as kind?
Most of the time people look at me like I'm retarded.
But that notion couldn't be further from the truth. Alan has Wilson's disease, a rare genetic liver disorder.
And basically what happens is your liver cannot get rid of excess copper. So in Alan's case, he was born with it. He didn't know he had it until he was 18.
And that's when symptoms hit hard. Suddenly, Alan couldn't walk, couldn't talk, couldn't eat. Doctors weren't sure if he would live.
So what you see now with the involuntary movement, the slurred speech, is permanent. It's from nerve damage that was left behind after being decoppered because the copper had sat on his brain for so long.
Alan communicates mostly through his wife, Stephanie. They've been married 15 years. She's never known Alan any other way.
I've always understood Alan from the first day we met. And I used to tell his family, because at the time I was his translator between him and them, that I listened with my heart and not my ears.
For 12 years, Alan held a job at a supermarket, collecting stray carts and yearning for more.
Wilson's people are generally told, you'll never hold on to a job because you can't focus. But that went out the window.
And focus he did, by taking a correspondence course from the New York Institute of Photography and finishing the 3-year course in 2.
He's always been the family photographer because he didn't like himself photographed.
Is that Adrian?
Suddenly, his own looks were no longer the focal point.
Shooting for me became like my solace. It would be my time. I was in my own world. I could focus on everything I saw and just capture it. And pretty soon, everyone that saw my pictures just kept telling me, "Alan, you have an eye."
An eye for making life stand still, even when he couldn't.
How does a stutterer stutter, but yet can sing normally?
It's the same thing.
Same concept.
Yet getting people to take him seriously as an artist is challenging.
And people are kind of like, "Look at that guy," and I'll try to say, "I'm a professional photographer." Sure you are.
Living with an eager photographer can be intrusive, but Stephanie doesn't mind.
It's like living with the paparazzi. I'll be going about life and there's the camera all the time. I know what the Hollywood people feel like.
And so do the animals at Jungle Gardens.
He's like a Dr. Dolittle. The animals just absolutely adore him. I think he talks animal. In our bird pose area, we have two parrots. And one of the parrots, when she sees Alan, her cheeks get all red and she blushes when she talks to him.
An African gray named Fortune, who normally expresses disdain for men, melts with Alan's soft touch.
When Alan goes into the gift shop, she just can't get enough of him. She'll lean in and preen for him and look at me, look at me.
But nearest and dearest to his heart are the flamingos. Funny thing, Alan didn't pick Adrian as his subject. Adrian picked him.
Adrian absolutely adores Alan. When he goes out, and he doesn't have food, so Adrian is not after him for a handout or for goodies. He just wants the affection.
And just like that, a friendship formed.
And he'll just snuggle and nuzzle on him and lay his neck on his shoulder.
Adrian is not one to blend in with the flock. Neither is Alan. Through his camera lens, he stands out, not because of his disability, but because of his ability.
Alan says his favorite venue for photography is a place called Sarasota Jungle Gardens. That is this place. And we agree with him. And so we thought, why not do a story on this place? It deserves it.
For over 70 years, Sarasota Jungle Gardens has given visitors a chance to experience Florida at its natural best.
But it's very unique looking through the jungle trails. You feel like you're in a very intimate setting and removed from what around us is a heavily urbanized and developed city.
This tropical paradise is also Nicole Lavick's legacy. Her mother, Dorothy, owns and operates the Jungle Gardens, along with Nicole and her brother, Chris. For over 70 years, Sarasota Jungle Gardens has given visitors a chance to experience Florida at its natural best.
What we hear from these visitors is that it feels like old Florida. I think that's a fairly common impulse. I think we all have that romantic inclination to look back to the good old times, and Jungle Gardens does offer that elusive old Florida feel.
This Gulf Coast attraction was created in the early 1930s to bring a botanical garden to the area.
There was a local newspaper man by the name of David Breed Lindsay, and he acquired the property upon which Sarasota Jungle Gardens sits today. In some newspaper clippings, some historical accounts, the raw land was described as an impenetrable jungle.
Lindsay and partners charted pathways and created ponds and streams on the property. Exotic plants from around the world were brought in, and tropical birds were attracted to the lush environment. Tourists and residents also flocked to the gardens, and in 1936 they decided to charge admission, 35 cents for adults, 10 cents for kids. In 1971, Arthur Allen, a businessman and self-made scientist, bought the property.
I know that my mother loved Jungle Gardens. She was very fond of everything here. A really pretty spot. And my father was exceptionally attracted to it as well, and it happened to come on the market. And he purchased it.
Scientists from around the world were invited to the gardens. Tourists lined up down the street to get in. Photographers with their pinup girls were frequent jungle dwellers as the Miss Florida beauty pageant contestants posed amidst the palms. And who can resist the flamingos, the unofficial symbol of Florida and its good life? Many of the birds in the bird show were brought in from the California State Prison in Chino. Inmates were taught to care for the birds as a way to learn responsibility.
When these birds were trained, they needed a home. And somehow the information got to my father, and the birds were brought to Sarasota Jungle Gardens by Bob Jeffries.
Now can you give everybody a kiss? Kiss? There you go, and there's a kiss.
Frosty, a sulfur-crested cockatoo, is a bona fide celebrity. He performed his own high-wire act on The Ed Sullivan Show. He is 74 years old. Conservation remains a key mission of the gardens. Some of the exotic animals were given to the park after owners couldn't handle them.
These animals can't survive in some of the environments that these people put them in, even though their intentions may be good.
My grandfather was a self-made scientist, which today it's very different. And he loved his wife, my grandmother, Dorothy. And so this was a place that she could also come and relax, and he could be housed next door to work on his research.
It's not unusual to find several generations of families strolling the pathways. For many residents, they grew up with the Jungle Gardens and want to share and relive previous visits.
Some of people's most monumental memories in life, like a first date, occur right here on the jungle paths. And I've heard so many stories of grandparents that are delighted to share, encounters with their first love. But I think we all feel a tremendous responsibility to care and preserve this place for its uniqueness.
Proof that some of life's greatest pleasures remain timeless